Hi, my name's Shintaro Kanaoya. I run a company called Chorus. We're a kind of indie publisher of indie games. This talk is really going to be about porting to consoles. Like it says, it's really aimed at those of you that are thinking about going to consoles but never have, and is it worth it? Should you do it? That kind of stuff. So if you have already done a lot of work on consoles, then you're probably not going to learn very much. So apologies. Right, so this is the quick spiel about who we are. So founded the company back in 2014. There's only 3 of us, so very, very small. We're all really old. I mean, that talk just a second ago made me feel fucking ancient. So everyone in this company is over 40, and it's just depressing. But we all kind of started off at EA Japan many, many years ago, so all of us have kind of got experience taking Western stuff out to Asia. So I was the producer on the first Japanese version of The Sims, for example. And then Fuzuki, who's now our production guy, the guy in the middle, he now does all our production stuff. And the guy on the right, Ryuji, is our PR guru. But he's quite interesting in that he's almost exclusively only worked at Western games companies in Japan. So he's very fluent in talking Western stuff to Japanese audiences. It's quite unusual. And these pictures were done by that guy over there, the guy that he thinks looks a bit like Tom Cruise. Is that right? Yeah, him. In Collateral, maybe. So that's who we are. So I won't spend too much time on this, just in terms of what kind of games we look for. Because we are quite small, we don't really we're not like a powerhouse UA company, right? So we look for games that are quite unique, quite individual, that can stand out on their own 2 feet. Very gameplay driven. We kind of look for games that we ourselves like. We're quite selfish that way. We just think, well, that looks like fun. So we're fairly genre agnostic as well. If we think, actually, that looks like that would be fun, I'd play that, then we pretty much do it. And so for the first 3 years, we were exclusively mobile. But as of a couple of years ago, we started doing console, which was because Nintendo approached us, and we were showing off a game at Bit Summit, which is an indie thing in Japan, and Nintendo said, can you come and talk to us? And I was like, yeah, we don't really want to do DS games or Wii U games, but it turned out it was for Switch, and like, yes, we'll take that meeting. And it's gone well. So these is the kind of stuff we've done so far. This is just, I think, apparently everything that's live in China right now. So the biggest ones we've done are The Room and The Room 2. A few other games you might recognize, like Return of 77, The Adventures of Bertram Fiddle, which I'll come on to in a second, Broken Sword 5, and a few others. And so we've worked with developers from the UK, Brazil, Taiwan, Malaysia, Russia, pretty much everywhere, Brazil, I think. And these are some of the console games we've got going at the moment. So again, very indie. Demumbo was our first one, which came out, I think it was 5 months after the Switch came out, and all the way through to Bertram Fiddle, which was our most recent one. And we've got a couple of titles that we're quite excited about. Forgotten Anne, which is coming out next month, I think it is, and another one called Vambrace, which is that's our Famitsu spreads. That's really the only reason I had it there. So I'm going to talk about that guy who happens to be in the room, funnily enough. So you might have noticed that there were a couple of games that were both on mobile and console. And they were The Adventures of Bertram Fiddle 1 and The Adventures of Bertram Fiddle 2, which were created by Rumpus, headed up by Seb over there. So I met Seb at Pocket Gamer Helsinki 4 years ago or something like that. You were just in some back room, and I thought, oh, your game looks like fun. It's got a huge amount of text. That seems good for localization, so we did it. Quick point, he's got a really good Kickstarter on right now, so you should go and support it. And I'm sure he'll tell you all about it if you ask him. So the reason that we wanted to go to console was because we had a really successful mobile game. So Bertram Fiddle is a point-and-click Monty Python humor-esque inflected Victorian England murder mystery adventure game. And so Seb made the first 2. We localized them into Japanese, Chinese, and Korean, and kind of did all that stuff out there. we had to localize the phrase "my grandfather had a massive clock" into 4 different languages, which was fun. But luckily, the thing's got a pendulum, so when you tap on it, obviously in English you understand that it's a joke. To convey that it's a joke is quite difficult, but Seb had drawn it with a pendulum, so we just made a joke about my grandfathers used to swing wildly as well, or something like that. So it kind of worked. But so that was kind of an interesting localization challenge, because it's so full of humor and so full of kind of English humor. To get that across to audiences that share no cultural touch points was challenging. But what we found was people actually did like it. They got into it, they understood the humor, and we thought, well, if this is working on mobile, and now that the Switch is out and it's very indie friendly, then maybe there's an opportunity there, which is why we did it. So, like I said, both games were well received. Games were developed in Unity, and we thought, well, if we can keep the porting costs low, this is a bit of an experiment. Let's see if we can do it. So we expected to get a positive return on investment, and so Rumpus, they gave us the source code. I think it's fair to say you didn't have to do too much on it. Is that fair? There you go. So they did fuck all, and then we just sent them money every now and then. Not a huge amount, but not nothing. So this is probably the most interesting slide of the whole thing, just so you've got the numbers. So the porting cost in the end for us came to about £5,500, which included buying the dev kit, getting the Japanese age ratings, the cost of the engineer, which basically was one engineer for 1 month doing the ports. I should say that we ended up publishing this globally, not just Asia. So we had the Japanese, the Chinese, Korean, English, and whatever other languages Seb put it in, French, German, etc. And a little bit of promotional costs with using a service called Keymailer, which was, if you don't know it, it's a really useful service to send out codes to streamers for the Generation Z people. I don't really know what they do. And so far, it's been out for about 10 months. It's made £25,000 thereabouts, which if you just take the ROI is 340%, which is pretty good. It continues to sell. We continue to do price promotions. It goes up again, then comes back down again. So it's actually, from a pure business point of view, been well worth our time doing. So for those of you that haven't done console development, the next few slides are probably useful, hopefully. So for those of you that aren't familiar with mobile development, you'll know the stuff on the left, right? You get your developer license from Apple, you get a Mac, you make the game, and you deploy with Xcode. Granted, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but bare strokes. Right, on console, it is obviously a bit more complicated. So anyone can sign up to be a developer at developer.nintendo.com. As soon as you do that, you will see Wii U and DS. Switch is just not there. To get access to Switch, which means being able to download the SDK, which means being able to order dev kits, you have to submit your game proposal, they have to review it, they have to like it, they have to give you the okay, then about a week later, suddenly all the Switch stuff will appear. And that's when you can finally order the dev kits, and then you can get the game running on the target machine. Then you have to go through cert. Who knows what cert is? Do most of you know what cert is? So some of you don't know. Okay, so when you put a game out on mobile, like you put it on Android, you put it on Google Play, and pretty much next day it's available, or immediately. Like it's out into the wild. On iOS, on iTunes Connect, or App Store Connect, it might take a day or so. Cert is a different beast, and all 3 platforms will do this. They go through the game pretty much with a fine-tooth comb, make sure everything works, which is great because you'll get a bug-free, as close to bug-free product as possible by the end of it. It will take you multiple tries. It could take you up to a month, possibly 2 months, depending on how good the code is going in. You'll get a bunch of bug reports, you'll have to fix them, and it just takes time. And the game won't go out unless that's done. And then actually, if you want Nintendo to promote the game, you want to create product pages and all that kind of stuff, again, it's more online paperwork, which is, it's just something you have to do, but it's a bit more onerous than the equivalent on the App Store, for example. Some creative considerations if you have a mobile game going to console. I won't read this all out, but obviously they're very, very different devices. With Bertram, we had a point-and-click adventure, which I don't actually know this for sure, Seb, but I'm guessing the original target platform was PC. Okay. So mobile and PC, and really, console and joypads aren't the best way to play point-and-click adventure games, just because moving a cursor around is a bit painful. But I think what we've shown is that actually it was worth doing, and there's a market, there's an audience there that's happy to play it, and also because it's a sit-back in your sofa experience as opposed to like leaning over a thing or having a device right here, it's quite a social thing. So if you're trying to solve a mystery with someone, sitting back with your family, with your friends, trying to solve a mystery is quite a fun, engaging thing to do. So point and click didn't immediately make a lot of sense, but actually it seems to be working. Obviously, there's loads more you can do with a controller than you can on a touch device. So the kind of reaction time and that kind of gaming, that thing that opens up all the different types of games is worth thinking about. Also, you don't have to have the UI and all the buttons on the screen. So again, it makes the real estate a lot cleaner. So it depends on the kind of game you have. If you have something, so I would say, if you have a match 3 game that's in portrait, don't do it. It makes no sense. If you have a landscape game that's a racing game or something like that, then you probably need to think about, well, why are you developing on mobile first? Isn't console potentially a lot better? Promotional considerations. Well, on mobile, I guess it's either getting featured or putting a lot of money into UA. The nice thing about console is that I think there's a lot more control in your hands at a lower cost. So getting featured is great when it happens, but it's kind of up in the lap of the gods. Paid UA is good. Apparently, you can pay up to $8 per install and get that cost down to whatever. But with PR on console, you can start building an audience and a community, engage the fan base. You can use services like Keymailer to distribute codes out to streamers, which is very cost effective. And obviously, you can work with a PR agency to get the word out there. And doing mobile PR, mobile games PR, fairly ineffective. It's nice to have that coverage. It doesn't really promote that many installs of the game. It's good for awareness, but it doesn't really promote that many installs, we've found. Whereas with console, it's much more effective. So getting word out there in games press makes a difference. And that's something that you can control yourself. Yeah, apart from that, PS4 and Xbox One, it's not a huge amount of difference between that and Nintendo. The biggest one with PS4 is that they have 3 different regions and 3 different cert processes. So you have to submit your one game to 3 different people, and you will get 3 different bunches of bug reports, and you have to pass all of them before you can release the damn thing, which is fun. Xbox One is great as you'd expect from a software platform developer. It's a very powerful tool set. You can screw up like we did. So we had a game where we had the paid version, which was the one that was supposed to go out. We had a review-free version, which was only supposed to go out to reviewers. We launched, apparently, the free version by accident. So for about 3 hours, the game was completely free. And we got on it quickly, but apparently 3 hours is really quick at internet time, so it was immediately on the forums. People downloaded the free version very quickly, and yeah, we didn't feel good about it. But it's just, it's one of those things that wouldn't have happened with Nintendo because they really hold your hand through to release. Xbox were like, it's your thing, you deal with it. Okay. So yeah, additional pros and cons. Is it worth doing? I think if you think about the total budget for your game and the incremental cost, then unless you've got a game that's completely unsuitable, then why wouldn't you spend the additional whatever small amount of time, small amount of cost to go there? Again, going back to I think the Bertram example, I think roughly console has caught up with with mobile and with iOS and PC in terms of revenue. So for that small extra increment of investment, it's made up probably maybe slightly less than a third of the overall revenue on a platform that it was never going to come to in the first place. So I would say it's absolutely worth thinking about. Yes, it is harder to get the game onto the platforms, but there's a lot fewer games. You're competing with far fewer games out there. And in a time when it's incredibly hard to get discovered, even though Switch is getting more and more saturated, nothing compared to iOS, nothing compared to Android. So you have a better chance of your game standing out. I'm going to grab some water. Sorry. So yeah, but you can read that. But is it suitable? Well, again, like I said, if you've got a match 3 that's portrait, that's free to play, that's ad monetized, no, Switch doesn't really make any sense. It's not going to work. But if you've got something that you think actually this is more gamey, more kind of, I guess, if you want traditional gamey, then it's absolutely worth considering. And why wouldn't you? Is kind of my thing really. That's it. I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.